So after the war, people say Netanyahu's done. Okay. First of all, is he done?
No, never write that guy off. I've written
That's
him off
true.
before, always live to regret it. He has a play. He has a play. He's already doing it. And what he's saying, not going to say, saying is this is all the IDF's fault and Biden's fault. And he's going to show how the IDF led to October 7th and Biden stopped him from winning. A lot of people will buy that, and he's going to avoid elections. The people in his coalition don't want to go home. They don't want elections because many of them won't have a job afterwards. He has a deck of a hand to play with, and he'll play it as best as he can. It's not a great hand, but he's going to make it as good as he can. And his rivals are just not on his level, so they're going to be outplayed. My guess is he won't be ever elected again to prime minister, but he'll stay in there for as long as he can. That could be a
How
long time. That could be years.
Americans should know, it's really fascinating. The Israeli right has adopted all this MAGA language on deep state.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, I don't speak Hebrew, unfortunately, but what I detect is that basically Netanyahu's supporters, the narrative is, you know who failed on October 7th? These weak globalist American puppet, post-Zionist, deracinated traitor, deep state, IDF generals, and the guy who's running intelligence. They didn't let Netanyahu know they failed. They failed, not Netanyahu, right? I hear that a lot, and I also sort of worry that this push for the Palestinian state, that if I was Netanyahu, I'd be like, oh, thank God, because now he's going to be like, if you don't keep me, when I'm in power, there's not going to be some dangerous, as he would say, terrorist state next to us. He'll be like, okay, you get rid of me, you're voting for a Hamas controlled Air Force next to you. So that's what I see. Now,
Yep.
who do you think are the most likely? Because here's what's interesting: Netanyahu's polling has been damaged, but October 7th, and this is one of the most insidious parts, it attacked the most left wing peace uh, aspiring Jews in Israel. It killed them, tortured, mutilated them. And now a lot of these people are, it's very sad. You see interviews and they're like, I don't know if I still believe that the peace is possible. Uh, so that's going to shape things. But Netanyahu's probably done. So who are the most likely? Is there anybody? Everybody says Gantz. Some people are like, hey, maybe Naftali Bennett comes back. Who are the leading names? And is there anybody who isn't on the radar who actually is a strong contender?
Yeah, yeah. There's some names that you might not know. Well, so we'll move on to side. Yair Lapid is has already been prime minister, might be prime minister again. He's not going to be the next prime minister. Naftali Bennett, like you said, he's going to come back to politics. He's not going to be prime minister. He doesn't have enough of a constituency. Two people I can think of who might be in the future are Yossi Cohen, who was the head uh
Oh,
of the
interesting. The guy with
Mossad.
the weird business stuff in Africa. Interesting. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
continue.
he's has enough of a security background and was close enough to Netanyahu that he could pick up a lot of the right without being directly implicated in October 7th because he wasn't in his job at the time. So I could see him making a case. He's definitely going into politics. I think Gadi Eisenkot behind Gantz, because he lost his son and his nephew in the war, and because he's being a lot more straightforward with the Israeli people about what's happening in the war than anyone else. Israelis love both those things, the sacrifice and the straight talk. I think his star is very much rising on the left. Yeah, so those are the two people I would look at who aren't currently being looked at all that much.
But is the Israeli left? I mean, it's already been greatly diminished. Um, but what is the state of those people in Israel? The people that were, a lot of the people killed on October 7th. I mean, one of the tragic Vivian Silver, this wonderful woman who was killed, was a lifetime peace activist, and I forget the name of her group, Women Who something where she was trying to unite Palestinian Israeli mothers and stuff. She would help drive people to hospitals from Gaza. Those people, what is they're still there in Israel, and I'm so glad there's still people like that. But what is the state of those people in Israel now?
Well, I don't think this has had as dramatic an effect on the left in Israel as you think. One of the main reasons is because the Israeli left was already barely in existence. I mean, you have to keep in mind that the last elections were the first time in decades that merits the flagship party for people who are very peace oriented but still Zionist didn't make it into the Knesset, so they were already very weak. And in current polls, they do make it in, so they may have been slightly strengthened by this. To me and to some other people in Israel, this has sharpened the need for a political solution. But having said that, the left, the real left, in the sense of really wanting to make concessions with the Palestinians right now, is small. Was small before the war and remains small. But the center left, which Benny Gantz represents, has gotten bigger. There's a sense among the average Israeli that Netanyahu's judicial reform and the messianic tendencies of the government are bad for Israel. And the people who don't like those things are now the majority in the country. They're not particularly gung ho on a Palestinian state or making concessions right now because very few people in Israel are. But they are much more pragmatic and would be willing to work towards a resolution under the right conditions in a way that Netanyahu wouldn't. So I don't see the state of things as completely bleak in terms of right versus left in Israel. There's a lot of cause for concern, but I think things are actually better now than they were a year ago.